Week 11 is in the books. That means it's time to hit those waiver wires to find players that get add value to the back end of your rosters. And first and foremost, I want to highlight a couple of players that are very highly rostered already, but not 100% that I think need to be. And that includes Trey Lance, quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, Juwan Jennings, wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, Taysom Hill, tight end or just do it all man for the New Orleans Saints, Will Disley, tight end for the LA Chargers. Again, all of these guys are rostered in well over 90% of Dynasty leagues out there, but not exactly 100%. So double check your waiver wires and immediately add these guys if they are available. Now, in a rather light week for injuries, the quote unquote biggest fantasy injuries came to both Raiders running backs Alexander Mattison with an ankle injury and Zamir White with a quad injury that forced both to leave early and not return. Without really knowing the severity of either injury, as I record this on Sunday night, should both miss any time, then the new starters for the Vegas Raiders would be Amir Abdullah, who I envision as more keeping his role as a pass catcher, and then rookie Dylan Labe, who has not played since week 6 when he fumbled and lost his first and only NFL carry to date. Now, as I mentioned, Abdullah should be almost strictly the pass catching back, considering that I can count on my hands the number of games in his career with 13 or more carries, and he only has 17 games with double-digit carries, the most recent game actually being back in 2017. So then the assumption would be that Labe would get an opportunity as the between the tackles runner with the potential to also steal receiving work from Abdullah, as that was a massive strength of his coming out of college. So if both or even just one of Mattison or White miss any significant time, I think both Abdullah and Labe are worth adding, but Labe has the much higher ceiling as the potential workhorse back on the ground and through the air. All right, moving to wide receiver, we have to talk about Devon Vele, a name that I haven't brought up in this video in a couple of months, but is deserving of being highlighted right now. Over the past 2 weeks, Vele has seen at least 4 targets in both games. He's caught 4 receptions in both games for 39 yards and a touchdown in week 10 and 66 yards this past week. As Bo Nix and this entire Broncos offense continues to get better, plus no real wide receiver 2 ascending behind Courtland Sutton, Vele has kind of filled that gap the past couple of weeks and has turned in 2 double-digit performances, totaling 4 double-digit games in 7 games played this season. He's not a sexy name, but he's making his name known as a rookie in a way that almost reminds me of like Jacoby Myers from a few years ago, who was just good enough to continue getting snaps as a rookie until he developed into a full-time producer, and now look at Jacoby Myers. That is the potential upside I see for Devon Vele, and he's well worth a roster spot in Dynasty. Speaking of another wide receiver that I've mentioned in this video before and will once again because of injuries on Sunday, Ray McCloud continues to be relevant on any given week and now could really have an opportunity depending on the severity of Darnell Mooney's hamstring injury that he left the game early with this week, or whatever this Achilles injury was that also popped up this week in practice as well. Anyway, you guys know my spiel on Ray McCloud. If you've watched this video consistently this year, he's a very solid fantasy wide receiver 4 with weekly flex upside when he gets more volume, as he has either scored a touchdown or broken 40 receiving yards in 6 of his 11 games played this year, and now could be in for more work if Darnell Mooney is out for any length of time. So it's time to pick up Ray McCloud. And just while we're at it, why not continue the trend of recycling receivers who have been in this video before by reiterating the names of Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I packaged both of these guys together for really 2 reasons. Number one, both of their names are super long and they're hyphenated, so kudos to both of them. But really, number 2, they are absolute dart throws if you're starting them in your lineup, but have reasons to pay off that feel slightly better than just a random dart throw. MVS basically replicated his Week 10 debut in New Orleans with another 70-yard touchdown this week and finished with over 16 PPR fantasy points. He once again tied for second on the team in targets and is basically playing the Rashid Shaheed role as the deep threat that Derek Carr can't keep getting away with, but somehow still does. So MVS remains an above average weekly dart throw with Chris Olave still on IR. Then as for NWY, well, he scored a touchdown now in 5 of his last 6 games, this time for 98 yards. He's seen at least 4 targets in 4 of his last 5 games and at least 30 receiving yards in 4 straight, which also conveniently aligns with DeAndre Hopkins being traded to Kansas City and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine operating as the de facto wide receiver 2 for Tennessee behind Calvin Ridley. So NWY also remains an above average dart throw with the role that he currently has and Tennessee's insanely soft schedule for receivers the rest of the year.